What up guys, your boy Kothis, and we are back with another one, and today we're playing with one of my favorite builds to play with, which is a poison build. I absolutely love doing poison builds in games. I love status proccing builds in all games, but it's really fun in this one. It's just as fun as playing the thunder build that I just made. I feel like the thunder build may hit a little bit harder. That's just because you're putting a debuff on it, but the poison one's really fun because we are moving around at a rapid pace. We have a high crit chance, we have high crit damage, constantly bursting around. We're doing some big damage based off the staff that we're using. I mean, it is just a blast. And to be able to put a dot on something is always fun to me because it's just extra damage for no reason. We don't really have to do anything just to get that extra damage. Now, the dot in this game is not insane. You could put more things or more curios on yourself to make it more insane, but at the same time, it is not that great. It's just extra damage, so nobody's upset about extra damage. Let's go ahead and get into that build, guys. Alright guys, starting off, I just want to say that you can absolutely make this build in base game. The only thing that's going to change is the staff. We are using the spine shooting staff. I love this. It's really good in New Game Plus. The reason we're using it is because it has a high crit hit chance, and on top of that, when you have a fully charged heavy attack or you have meter buildup where you can do your fully charged heavy attack, it does shoot spines, and those spines will crit, and those spines hit up to 2 other times. So you get 3 hits with 1 heavy attack, and I think that's really good. If you are still in base game, I would highly suggest one of these staffs. Me personally, I would use this staff over this one, but it's up to you. And getting into the armor, it should be obvious we are wearing the centipede set. Now, the only thing that isn't part of this is venomous arm guard. Even though they go hand in hand, you have to fight a boss a very specific way to get these to drop. I'm sure someone's made a video on that. If you've seen it, then you know. If you haven't, then you'll figure it out. But this has a unique effect that allows you to poison enemies based off critical hits. Now, it was really hard for me to understand at first because the tooltip isn't very descriptive. What it means is you have to land multiple crit hits to be able to build up a meter, then it poisons the enemy. So the more crit hits you land, the easier it is to build up the effect to poison the enemy, and I find the spin the wind to be one of the best ways to do that. Moving on to vessels, we are using Weaver's Needle. It just makes sense because we are going for more crit, and that's what this little bad boy does. And then going on to spirits, there are 2 spirits that I highly suggest. First off is the Elder Armor Worm. The Armor Worm is really good just because it allows us to have higher critical hit chance when we are poisoned. So when we do full buffs, we're getting 16% more crit chance out of this. It is a little sluggish, slow. It just kind of like flops around on the ground, but it leaves poisonous pools everywhere, which works very well. I like the Scorpion Prince better just because I'm playing very aggressive with this build, and this is more aggressive. Now, it's not going to help us on the crit, but it will increase our poison dot damage, and that's not bad either, but I just like the overall burst that this thing has. I feel like you can get a little bit more damage out of this, but if you're running the Armor Worm, obviously you're going to have higher crit rating. As far as curios go, we are stacking crit chance and crit damage, and the only thing that you really want is Celestial Birthstone, which you get pretty much at the end of the game or your first playthrough. But what this does allows you to ignore the 4 Bane's resistance. It's not absolutely needed, but it does help a lot to be able to poison enemies a lot faster. The only thing I seem to have problem with are like golems, like rock type creatures. They don't seem to poison at all. That could just be me, but I literally have tried and I couldn't get anything to poison with those. So that seems to be the only thing in the game that I cannot poison. And getting into relics, starting with Craving Eyes, I would highly suggest Keen Insight because it considerably increases our critical hit damage, and this is a bit of a crit build even though it's poison. And then moving on to Fuming Ears, neither one of these really matter. Whatever you like, you put it there. It's up to you, big dog. And then Hubris Nose, I highly suggest Lingering Aroma because we are casting quite a few spells, and that just adds to our damage. Going into Envious Tongue, I would suggest Refreshing Taste just because we are eating medicine and it increases our critical hit chance of the next attack, which is quite nice to have. And then Grieved Body, it's up to you. I would highly suggest Everlasting Vitality because this poison will chunk at our health bar, so it's good to have more health. If you want, you can go for Divine Safeguard, but be wary of this because if you have too much resistance, you will not be able to poison yourself and buff yourself. And if you got the secret ending and you're a New Game Plus, I would highly suggest Elegance in Simplicity because it moderately increases our light attack damage. Going over Foundation, as far as stamina goes, put points where you want. We definitely want stamina back, and we are perfect dodging quite a bit with this build, so if you want to bring it all the way down here, you can. It's just more damage for us, and it helps us quite a bit with the mobility. As far as martial arts, I would highly suggest maxing out this tree as much as possible. We are doing a lot of light attacks, and we are using the Spin the Wind just to be able able to constantly put the debuff, the Poison Bane, on enemies. It makes it a lot easier to use this, so I would highly suggest coming down through here. As far as survival, I would maybe think about putting points into health, because every time we drink our potion, we are poisoned, and that does add up. We are constantly eating damage. I would also put points in crit hit chance and a little bit of defense and crit hit damage. I would probably stay away from 4 Banes just because we want to be able to poison ourselves, and like I said before, it is possible to be completely resistant to poison, so watch out for this. If you have extra points, you want to put them somewhere else, please go for it. As far as staff stances, we went with thrust stance this time because I've been playing smash stance, and thrust is really good. I really love to be able to roll dodge and do the heavy attack on it. Also, coming down here, the force cascade is really good at being able to apply the poison, just because it does increase our crit chance, and it's constantly hitting, which is constantly critting and putting the poison dot on enemies. So thrust stance is really nice. If you want to play another stance, go for it. We're not set in stone on thrust stance. As far as mysticism, I think immobilize is the best. If you want to go the spellbinder route with this, you most definitely can, because I have tested that and it does really solid damage. I just like having my spells with this, and I feel like they work better. So immobilize, I maxed it out. You should max it out too. As far as alteration, we went with Cloud Step. That is a no-brainer. You know I was gonna go Cloud Step. I think it's one of the best skills. I think it's much better than Rock Solid, but if you want to rock solid, you can. I just highly suggest going Cloud Step just because we have crit chance and it just gives us overall more damage, and this is a fast-paced build. As far as strand, Pluck of Many, that's a no-brainer. I feel like this is absolutely busted. You should always be maxing out Pluck of Many. If you're not, I don't know what you're doing. You should definitely max this out. Last but not least, getting into transformations. Now, these are our passives that go to our character. I would highly suggest putting points on this. It just stacks up damage as we're perfect dodging. I'd put points here just to have a little bit more defense. Obviously, you want to come down here just so we have more poison damage, and then the rest is really up to you. I had extra points. Like I said before, please be wary of putting points into resistances, because it is possible to not poison yourself and you're missing out on a lot of damage. Anything else that you see, just dump points into however you want. Alright guys, that pretty much sums it up. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps this channel out a lot. It helps me out a lot. Hopefully this poison build was able to help some of you all out, because I know that when I first started messing with poison builds, I couldn't really fully understand what they wanted us to do with it, because heavy attacks just didn't make sense. As far as videos go, this is probably going to be my last Wukong video for a while. Maybe in the future when DLC comes back out, I'll come out, but I'm going to switch over to Warhammer. Anyways, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the future. Later guys.